All right, we're live. What's going on, everybody? It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a dope beat to step to. Sorry. The coffee is infused with espresso, and I added an espresso shot on top of that, so should be an interesting one. So, we're waiting. Committee on the Judiciary. That's funny. They got some text over the text. Ooh, someone's here. So we're waiting on the committee to start markup report, recommending that the House cite Mark Zwanitzer for contempt of Congress. Will begin shortly. Report. I'm going to write that and pin it for a minute there. Recommending Biden ghostwriter for contempt of Congress. Done. It's the markup of that report, let's say. So I guess what happened was he had notes or files. I'm not sure if it was audio, interview. No, you know what it was? I know what it was. It was the classified documents Biden had shared with his ghostwriter, and then the ghostwriter, once he had learned that Biden was being investigated by Robert Hur, he then, quote, slid those files into his recycling bin or something like that. So, that's what this is about, I believe. We'll find out together. This is the Judiciary, Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Nadler, a couple of other characters around the Judiciary, and that's, obviously I have an interest there. For many reasons. But, so, thank you for joining, right? Double tap on the screen to like, by the way. Didn't know if you know that. It is tampered. It is. Yes, 100% Eric Rodriguez. Yeah, 100. So, this is about holding him in contempt of Congress. And I believe that, if it happens, and I don't believe it doesn't take an act of the Senate, the House can hold someone in contempt. That opens them up to criminal and civil liabilities. Just depends. So, slowly these chains move. The slowest game of football. And with someone like Mayorkas, the chains did not move at all, or they stopped. They stopped at the 99-yard line there at the Senate without, no impeachment trial for him. Garland, not so lucky. He was held in contempt of Congress. He's currently being held in contempt of Congress. You have congressmen and women saying they're gonna take him in themselves. It's getting thick, right? The tension. It's like a pressure cooker. So, and I've been playing with these ideas. I don't know. Maybe it's more fiction. I don't know what that means, Mr. Exta. I don't know. But I've been playing with these ideas that Mayorkas and Garland have been like these creatures of the machine, the government, for decades and decades and decades. I'm like, man, what is their origin story? And if you go back and look, Garland, I wasn't there, but I believe MK Ultra lasted until the late 70s, maybe. I don't think it was cut off in the late 60s. I think it kept going through the 70s. Guess when Garland was at Harvard? All throughout the entire 70s, basically. He was Harvard undergrad and then a Harvard law guy. So that's an interesting thing. Did he ever come into contact with the government before he was, working for them? And interesting enough, there is a direct connection between Garland and MK Ultra, and that he was the lawyer on the Unabomber case. So could be It's very interesting. I don't know. There's something. There's a kernel of something there. Mayorkas, similarly, these guys were in the right place at the right time for a while. Mayorkas, I guess late 80s, early 90s, was an assistant U.S. attorney in the Central District of California. Why is that important? Because that's when the CIA was drug dealing heavily in the Central District of California. We're talking about Rick Ross stuff. So I don't know if these guys have been, tools of the Department of Justice for just decade after decade after decade, promoted after each failure, let's say. These guys fail up all the way to their positions. Yeah. Weasel. He's a Berkeley guy, right? Berkeley, and then I forget where it was. I had it. I was doing research for these videos. I was talking about it yesterday a little bit. Know your enemy of the state. These guys. Not good guys. Let's just make sure we're live here. It appears that we are live. We're waiting on the report for the markup of the report, recommending that the House cite Mark Zwanitzer for contempt of Congress. So that's where we're at. We got the big debate tonight, by the way, if you haven't heard already. Tonight, 9 o'clock, Trump versus Biden, assuming, as I said it in the short I just put out there, assuming Biden can find the stage. And that's, it's possible that he doesn't make it, right? He's old. He's not doing great, and we know that they just pumped him up full of drugs all week, so it'll be interesting to see how he's doing. Tears of opposing counsel mug today. Yeah. If you need a mug, don't let me push them on you, but me and my kids, we designed these, and we put them out on Printful, and then you can get them on DaveTheLawyer.store. I wouldn't push them unless I enjoy them. I've been through a lot of mugs, like the allegedly's on the Amazon and a rigged debate. Well, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Tapper passed the questions way in advance, right, Augie? Is that what we're saying? Yes, I believe so. It's dual cast on C-SPAN, so I'm going to be watching on C-SPAN, Stacy. I mean, that's the thing, right? Sometimes you gotta beg forgiveness instead of asking for permission. But because it's carried by C-SPAN, I believe. I think I can stream something on C-SPAN. Usually, when C-SPAN's carrying something that's being carried somewhere else. When the advertisements roll up, they'll just throw a screen up like
Committee will come to order without objection. The chair is authorized to declare a recess pursuant to Committee Rule 2, House Rule 11, Clause 2. The chair may postpone further proceedings today on the question of approving any measure or matter or adopting an amendment for which a recorded vote is ordered. We now recognize the gentleman from Wisconsin to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to notice, I call up the report recommending that the House of Representatives cite Mark Zwanitzer for contempt of Congress for purposes of markup and move that the committee report it favorably to the House. The clerk will report.
Resolution recommending that the House of Representatives sign.
Without objection, the report be considered as read and open for amendment at any point. Before recognizing myself for an opening statement, I forgot to recognize our newest member. The gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Ruley, was recently elected and, of course, as you all know, sworn in, gave amazing, I thought, remarks on the House floor. Mr. Ruley was elected to represent Ohio's 6th Congressional District. Before this election, he served in the Ohio Senate. We're excited to have him join our committee. The Ruley family has had grocery stores in Youngstown for like 1,000 years, and it's great to have you now as part of the Judiciary Committee, so we welcome you to the committee. Yeah, we should clap for that. The chair now recognizes himself for an opening statement. President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. That is what Special Counsel Hur found on page 1 of his report. On at least 3 occasions, Joe Biden, quote, read aloud classified notebook passages to his ghostwriter nearly verbatim. On page 200 of his report, Special Counsel Hur concluded that President Biden's disclosure of classified materials to Mr. Zwanitzer risked serious damage to America's national security. It's worth repeating that Special Counsel Hur said that President Biden had strong motivations to share classified information with his ghostwriter. In fact, he had 8 million reasons to ignore the rules. Joe Biden shared some of the classified materials he wasn't allowed to keep, with his ghostwriter, who was writing a book for which he was receiving an $8 million advance. All this, and yet Special Counsel Hur declined to prosecute Joe Biden because, quote, he is a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. And that brings us to today. Following the release of Special Counsel Hur's report, we subpoenaed 6 categories of information from Mr. Zwanitzer related to his work on President Biden's memoirs, including transcripts and audio recordings of his interviews with President Biden. To date, Mr. Zwanitzer has refused to comply with the committee's subpoena. The responsive documents in Mr. Zwanitzer's possession are necessary for our oversight. As an initial matter, we must know the extent to which President Biden disclosed classified materials to Mr. Zwanitzer and his intent behind disclosing that information. In order to do so, and to determine whether Special Counsel Hur appropriately carried out justice by not prosecuting the president, we need the audio recordings and the transcripts. Put simply, they are the best evidence of the president's mental state. Remember, on page 207 of his report, the special counsel said, Mr. Biden's memory also appeared to have significant limitations, both at the time he spoke to Zwanitzer in 2017, as evidenced by their recorded conversations, and today as evidenced by his recorded interview with our office. Special counsel concluded that some jurors may have reasonable doubts because President Biden's apparent lapses and failures in sharing the classified information with Mr. Zwanitzer would appear consistent with the diminished faculties and faulty memory he showed in the recorded interviews with his ghostwriter. Not only did Special Counsel Hur decline to prosecute President Biden, he also declined to prosecute Mr. Zwanitzer for obstruction of justice. Special Counsel Hur found that, quote, after learning of his investigation, Mr. Zwanitzer deleted digital audio recordings of his conversations with Mr. Biden, where President Biden in fact disclosed classified information to him. Audio recordings that the Special Counsel Hur found had significant evidentiary value to his investigation. We need to understand the extent to which Mr. Zwanitzer impeded Special Counsel Hur's investigation by deleting these recordings. But to do all of this, the committee needs the information we subpoenaed from Mr. Zwanitzer. No legal or constitutional privilege protects the information subpoenaed from disclosure. Mr. Zwanitzer has a legal obligation to turn over the requested materials pursuant to the subpoena, and his willful refusal to comply with our subpoena constitutes contempt of Congress. Our oversight is too important to allow Mr. Zwanitzer to willfully disregard our lawful subpoena. Now I yield to the ranking member for an opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, we have an important oversight role in this committee. We oversee the Department of Justice, federal courts, federal antitrust policy, civil rights issues, federal law enforcement, and so much more. But we're not here today because of any of these legitimate areas for oversight. We're here today because after spending $20 million chasing dozens of conspiracy theories, MAGA Republicans have come up with nothing. In fact, the Republicans' stunning failure was made painfully obvious just yesterday when the Supreme Court ruled that the conspiracy theory underlying their signature investigation into social media companies was, quote, clearly erroneous. We're here today because there's a presidential debate tonight, and MAGA Republicans have decided the best way they can help President Trump is by bullying and intimidating a private citizen to obtain information about his highly sensitive and deeply personal conversations with President Biden. We're here today because Republicans are, in a word, desperate. This contempt resolution against Mr. Zwanitzer is an abuse of the committee's oversight authority, pure and simple. Decorum and collegiality have clearly departed this chamber in favor of MAGA extremism when this committee harasses a private citizen to intimidate him into giving the chairman whatever he wants in his quest to find something damaging to use against President Biden. Earlier this week, we received a letter that White House counsel Ed Siskel sent to Mr. Zwanitzer's attorney in which the White House said, quote, the committee's subpoena seeks broad swaths of personal information that President Biden provided to your client in confidence as part of the process for writing his memoirs. The vast majority of this information is private. The committee subpoena is therefore a congressional subpoena for the President's information, which unavoidably pits the political branches against one another. Unfortunately, the committee has thrust your client into the middle of this interbranch conflict. The letter continues, quote, "Your client is not authorized to provide any of the President's information until it has been reviewed for executive branch confidentiality concerns and a resolution of these constitutional issues between the two branches has been reached," close quote. Mr. Siskel also wrote to the chairman directly, advising him that, quote, "The executive branch is ready and willing to engage in good faith with the committee in response to its purported interest in this matter." In other words, the committee's fight is not with Mr. Zwanitzer. It's with the executive branch, and that's who it should be negotiating with. And according to Mr. Siskel's letter to the chairman, Republicans have not engaged in negotiations with the White House at all. But we're not here today to engage in good faith negotiations. We're here today because the majority has instead chosen to bully and intimidate a private citizen because they think they can break him before they break the executive branch. They desperately want the audio recordings of Mr. Zwanitzer's dozens of hours of private interviews with President Biden conducted when they worked together on Promise Me, Dad, a memoir detailing President Biden's loss of his son when he was vice president. I would like to read some of the entries from this book so that as we move forward with this ridiculous contempt proceeding today, we can all keep in mind what kind of information and recorded conversations Republicans want to acquire and weaponize against President Biden. In his book, the president recalls telling his dying son, quote, "I will never stop doing everything I can to keep you alive, to keep you with us. It's okay if you go now. It's okay if you don't fight anymore. It's okay to go to sleep." He recalls his son telling him, "You've got to promise me, Dad, that no matter what happens, you're going to be all right. Give me your word, Dad. You're going to be all right." President Biden recalls making an entry in his diary after his son's diagnosis, writing, quote, "No Thanksgiving would ever be quite the same. I pulled out my diary and started to write. I did have one big item for my own Christmas list that year, but I was keeping it to myself. Naval Observatory, November 30th, 2014, 7:30 p.m. Just home from Nantucket. I pray we have another year together in 2015. Bo, 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 Bo." He recalled making another entry. "As Air Force 2 took off, I felt compelled to open up my diary and write, March 29th, leaving MD Anderson with hope. Bo is an amazing man, as is Hunter. He is staying with Bo until the next procedure. I'll be coming back." I paused. What else was there to say? I was afraid if I really opened up, I would give in to a lurking despair, and I could not allow that to happen. I could not allow Bo or anyone else to see that, ever. I set aside the diary until the flight was nearly over, then picked it up again to add one line. Just landed, 6:07. I feel so goddamn lonely. He also recalls watching his son wither before his eyes. My eye was drawn to Bo as we talked. It wasn't yet late in the evening, but it was already tiring. He was so gaunt, and his face seemed drained of color. I could see the outlines of the leg brace through his pants. Bo had been losing recall of more and more proper nouns lately, and he seemed less willing to fight through it. Ashley, Bo's sister, had told me that Bo was no longer inviting her into the room for his speech therapy because his decline really bothered him. Bo said almost nothing that chilly February night in Washington. He would whisper something to his brother instead, and Hunter would speak for him. Unquote. I think most parents would agree, watching your child suffer and die is the worst possible torment you can imagine. And that tragedy, that heart-wrenching, gut-churning agony that President Biden endured is what Republicans want to use against him. Their desperation knows no bounds.
This is wild.
And don't let them pretend here that they have compassion for President Biden's loss or that this request has anything to do with oversight. If this committee really wanted to conduct oversight, they would work in good faith with the DOJ and the White House, not employ intimidation tactics and punitive subpoenas against a private citizen. They don't want to conduct legitimate oversight. They want to get those audio files to help MAGA Republicans this election cycle. Mark my words, if Republicans get these files, their priority will be getting altered and context-free audio clips into Republican campaign ads, not doing the real work of the American people. This is about digging for embarrassing audio of President Biden when he was in a vulnerable state discussing the death of his son. This is about their political game. Oversight Chairman James Comer said so himself in an email. He said if he gets the tapes, he will release them for the purpose of demonstrating, quote, Biden's mental state to convince, quote, swing voters. What more evidence do you need? And in case I have to explain this, demanding material to bolster your political campaigns does not constitute the kind of legitimate legislative purpose that makes a subpoena enforceable in court. Despite Republicans' desperate attempts to feign a substantive need for these files, one simply does not exist. Today's markup is about making the chosen Republican leader, Donald Trump, happy by hunting down any possible vulnerabilities of President Biden. And to achieve that goal, this committee is willing to put a target on the back of an American citizen, a private American citizen who has already been cleared of wrongdoing in this very matter. Frankly, this is frightening. Trump is weaponizing this MAGA Republican-led committee to get information on his opponent, President Biden, at any cost, even if it means publicly flogging an American citizen trying to live a private life. And I have to wonder, is this just the beginning? Is this what we have to look forward to? If Trump gets a second term, is this the playbook? Anyone, public official or private citizen, who doesn't give Trump what he wants will have the weight of the government hammered down on them. Anyone who questions Trump's authority will have his name fed to Trump's ravenous far-right supporters to instill fear and submission. Anyone who asserts their constitutional rights to get in the way of a Republican agenda will be held in contempt by Trump's enablers in Congress. That is not an America I want to live in. That is not the American democracy I have devoted my career to fighting for. And I know this is not the country the American people want. Every American should sit up in fear watching this public attack on a private citizen. If he isn't safe from this kind of government abuse, what makes you think you are? I urge members to oppose this dangerous resolution. And I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I would just add, Mr. Zwanitzer is in fact a private citizen who tried to destroy evidence once an investigation was announced, the very evidence we seek in our subpoena that he fails to comply with. That's why we're here. Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. The chair now recognizes himself for the purposes of offering an amendment in the nature of a substitute. The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment in the nature of a substitute to the committee.
Without objection, the amendment in the nature of a substitute will be considered as read and shall be considered base text for the purpose of the amendment. The chair now recognizes himself to explain the amendment. The amendment makes a grammatical change on page 5 of the report. It does not change the substance of the report. Who seeks recognition? Gentlelady from North Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I move to strike the last word.
Gentlelady is recognized, excuse me.
Thank you. I am not surprised that the majority has taken this ridiculous fight with the executive branch to a private citizen. They're bullies. Mr. Zwanitzer is a writer and director, not a political figure. And his attorney has repeatedly explained that Mr. Zwanitzer is not in a position to determine what materials he can share with this committee, especially when the executive branch has asserted significant interest in this material. Going after a private citizen who is now caught between two branches of government is not only legally bankrupt, but also an unjustified abuse of power. Mr. Zwanitzer set out to write a memoir in President Biden's name about the death of his son, Beau. Nothing more. He's now caught in a legal battle in which he has no stake, all because the majority on this committee is desperate to get its hands on any material related to President Biden in order to justify its relentless and fruitless investigation into anything and everything related to this administration. Congress is supposed to work for the people, for people like Mr. Zwanitzer, who, in addition to his work with President Biden on his memoir, is working on a documentary about the creation of the Transcontinental Railroad. Instead, the majority is attacking the people, the very people it is supposed to protect and represent. I refuse to be associated with this attack on a private citizen, and I refuse to be associated with the members of this committee who are leading this charge. And as the ranking member said, this has been timed for the debate. It has been timed for the election. It is nothing more than a political stunt, and it is an abuse of power. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Who seeks recognition? Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if my friend from North Carolina would engage in a colloquy. So if I'd like to pose a question to Ms. Ross, given what was just said. Mr. Zwanitzer was the ghostwriter of what you just described, and the ranking member before you described as a book about the death of President Biden's son. Why was President Biden, according to Special Counsel Hur, reading from classified materials about Afghanistan to his ghostwriter in a book that was solely about the death of President Biden's son? You don't care to answer? I can understand.
I didn't yield, and I don't have any information about that.
I see.
So I
Okay.
suggest that you use your
No, I'm not
4
looking for
minutes
I'll reclaim
to
my
address
time then,
the
if you-
contempt
Time
resolution.
belongs
my
to the
time.
gentleman from North Carolina.
Yeah, that's my time. I offered to engage in a colloquy which would have the effect of refuting the absurd allegation that you made. But I can understand why you don't want to answer, because it's an irrefutable point. No one that I know about who's interested in securing Mr. Zwanitzer's compliance with the lawful process served upon him has had anything to say about the death of Beau Biden. No one's read from the parts of the book about Beau Biden to frame this matter. The question is, why was Joe Biden reading from classified materials to somebody without a security clearance in a matter for which he was going to be paid $8 million? And this Congress needs to investigate and consider what is necessary, and it is the committee vested by this House of Representatives with inquiring into the grounds for impeachment of the selfsame president. And the hypocrisy is mind-blowing. I wonder if Steve Bannon could imagine that someone might, for a political purpose, pursue a contempt resolution. But there's no political purpose here. It is the responsibility of this person who received classified information to provide what he has to this committee to evaluate. It's just almost, it's unspeakable. I was thinking about the legislative purpose that was cited in order to secure the personal private income tax returns of President Trump. We can all say with certainty that there was no motivation of a political sort involved in that. Wow. Calling the tune requires playing by the tune. But Mr. Zwanitzer is an ordinary citizen. The process served upon him to compel him to provide information to this committee, straightforward. He has, with the most frivolous of arguments, flouted his responsibility under law. It is this committee's responsibility to proceed. That's how it works. It's very simple, nothing more to it than that. It's time we get on with it. I'm fully in support of the A&S. Mr. Chairman, with that, I yield to anyone else who wants the time.
Good time.
Mr. Biggs from Arizona.
Thank you very much. When we listen to the first two speakers for Cross the Aisle, it is clear that they are infected with TDS. The ranking member could not utter a sentence without mentioning MAGA. But it gets to the point that Mr. Bishop, my friend, made. The ranking member said that we want to get hold of, and quote, sensitive and deeply personal conversations with Zwanitzer, close quote. This was for a book that was going to be published. These were classified documents. And you want to tell us, oh, we want access to sensitive, deeply personal conversations with his ghostwriter who was making a bundle of money to publish a book. That's not deeply sensitive and personal. What it was illegal. The special counsel said he had classified documents from the time he was even the senator, some of which were still classified. And then Zwanitzer, showing a guilty mind, destroyed evidence when he was confronted about it. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Who seeks recognition? The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today is a sad day in history, in the history of this particular committee, that we have stooped to the point of trying to intimidate and bully a private citizen, a journalist, no doubt, who has collaborated with President Biden at some of his most sensitive moments about very sensitive issues, the death of his son. And this committee is using its power to try to get at some audio tapes between this journalist and President Biden, wherein President Biden is discussing these kinds of sensitive matters. And the only reason why the other side is doing it is because they're now trying to scrape up as much information as they can to make Donald Trump happy, because he needs fodder for campaign ads. And so that's why this audio is important to my friends on the other side of the aisle, just to appease President Trump. And, you know, fact of the matter is this is the outgrowth of $20 million in taxpayer money having been spent by this committee and this Congress investigating President Biden and Hunter Biden, trying to find evidence of a criminal gang as they have billed it. They have come up with no evidence after spending that much money and all of the staff time. They've not been able to come up with any evidence of corruption by President Biden or his family, which they call a crime family. This committee has been front and center in that investigation. It has been fruitless. In addition to this committee, you've had folks like Robert Hur, a special counsel, a holdover from the Trump administration, special counsel, who looked into classified documents that were found and turned over by President Biden that were in his possession after he had left office. And Robert Hur looked into it to determine whether or not there was any criminal liability. And he found none, but he chose on his way out, issuing a final report, to include in that report inappropriate characterizations of the president's mental competency, President Biden's mental competency, for the express purpose, that was a giant breadcrumb offered to this committee to enable them to follow up on that, as they are doing right now. So in addition to those fruitless rabbit hole investigations, now we have morphed into, okay, we need to get the audio files of the ghostwriter for President Biden. Isn't that a ridiculous use of this committee's time, that we're sitting here and a private citizen is being bullied and intimidated and threatened, a journalist, by this committee. It's really a sad day. The American people see that this is doing nothing to make life better for them. This is just an outgrowth of a rabbit hole investigation. It'll go nowhere. We're wasting our time. The American people expect us to do the business that makes their lives better. That's what we need to be about, putting people over politics. And so I will yield back the balance of my time. This is a sad day.
Gentleman yields back. Who seeks recognition? The gentleman from California is recognized.
If the MAGA impeachment investigation was a missing person, we'd all have Amber Alerts on our phones a long time ago. And that's what this is really about. They promised you that they were going to have the goods to impeach the president, and they failed. They came up short. You've got nothing, nada, zilch, zero. It's a big goose egg. And so you're just screwing around now on the margins with this batting practice, exhibition, preseason game like exercise because you're not ready for prime time. I'll yield to anyone who will tell me when you're bringing your impeachment vote. If anyone wants to tell me, because you promised the American people you were going to impeach President Biden. So bring it. I'll yield. Bring it. Come on. You promised the American people. Bring it. Don't screw around with this
I'll be glad to
stuff.
speak to that.
Yeah. Do you have a vote, Mr. Bishop?
Yeah.
Okay, make the motion.
Here's
make
the
the
answer.
motion.
Here's the answer.
Make the motion.
No,
Come on.
you didn't ask me to make a
Come on,
motion.
big
You
man.
asked me to
You talked
explain
about
when
this
it would
all the
occur.
time.
You want me to
Come
answer
on.
you? Was it a question you
You're
want to
a big
answer?
man, right? You talk about impeaching the president. Bring the motion.
I'll be glad to answer your
Come
question
on.
if you want an
Bring
answer.
the motion.
You
Come
mean
on,
you don't
Biggs.
want an answer?
Come on, Biggs, bring the motion. Stop wasting our time. You're wasting our time.
Here's the answer.
You're
As
wasting
soon as
our
they
time.
stop
Bishop, come
stonewalling
on.
the investigation,
Bishop,
we can
you
get
got
to the next
nothing.
step.
You guys got nothing because Joe Biden has been acquitted. And this is just a pathetic post-game of a exercise that yielded nothing. This is embarrassing. It's embarrassing and it's a waste of time. You have people sitting in here who are wearing shirts that say moms demand action. Do you think moms are demanding impeachment? No. They want their kids to be safe in their classroom from gun violence. You actually sit on a committee that can do that. Man, come here and do something. You have a colleague right now who's trying to put the Attorney General in handcuffs with this Anna Paulina lunacy because she can't accept that the former president was arrested and convicted. In her own district, she has some of the highest home ownership insurance rates in the country. Her state has a 6-week abortion ban. And this is the lunacy that she's coming here and focusing on? Guys, it's over. It's dead. It's rigor mortis. And it's time to move on. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Votes have been called on the floor. We have a bunch of them too. I think like 20 votes. So the committee will be in recess while they're speeding up the time on that first vote. So we will go vote, and then we'll come back and pick up where we left off. The committee stands in recess.
All right. We got a little bit of time. They're in recess. We can go check out what's going on in, the House floor. I like to see them. I like to see them trickle in. It's like, immersive. So right now they're going to be walking from Rayburn. I think there's probably a tunnel system. I'm not like that big an insider, But that was hard to watch, the Swalwell. Swalwell's hard to listen to. But who was it that said, he didn't go into the Jordan, what's he dodging, a subpoena? Yeah. So the vote today is, it looks like, let's find out before we get all, HR 8771, Department of State, Foreign Operations and Related Programs Appropriations Act. 2025. This is the text of the bill. Making appropriations for the Department of State, foreign operations, and related programs for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, and for other purposes. This is a bill making appropriations for the Department of State and foreign operations and related programs for the fiscal... Okay. Yes. Necessary expenses for the Department of State and Foreign Service. Right? Okay. More money. It's a money thing. Let's see if we can see, is Nadler going to hobble in? You know? Just give the guy a scooter already. You know? What's going on, chat? So yeah, so far, I thought, Nadler was hard to listen to because he kept on talking about Beau Biden, which I guess that's going to be a theme. Ross did the same thing. But Swalwell was very difficult. He's all over the place, Not making a lot of sense. Yeah. So, yeah, Penguin Waddles. Did I miss him come in? I hope I didn't. He's fun to watch. Why? I mean, if you thought he has that goblin look just sitting there in committee, wait till you see him. It's good. One of these days I want to time. I'm going to time how long. I can figure it out. I can go back and watch from when Jordan gavels out to when he walks into the House chambers. Yeah, they are. Yeah, Civil War, I agree. Any action? Oh boy. So I mean, they recessed. They say they said 20 minutes. So they must know that about 5-minute walk there, 5-minute walk back. Let's say. I've heard there's also like a monorail system or something. I don't know if that's true. Some sort of something to carry these guys around. They just ride around on their pages' backs. Here we go. Time remaining, 7 minutes. Jim Jordan is running in, leading the Judiciary Committee in lockstep. That'd be great. I know. Look, I hope he gets to use a little like a little golf cart thing like they use in the grocery store. I hope Nadler gets to use something. I think I see Isa down there. Polished as ever. Not a lot of action. Come on. The clock's ticking down for this vote, though. So I don't want to look away because I don't want to risk missing Nadler. Who else is there? What's the Senate up to? Let's take a look. I don't think there's anything going on in the Senate today. It might be. Yeah, there's no committee hearings, and they're not live on the floor right now. I don't know if they're going to be live later. Nada. Nothing's scheduled until July 9th. That doesn't mean nothing's going to come up before then. That happens a lot. You'll get nothing on the schedule, and then something pops up before. I've got to hang my 4th of July decorations, the bunting. Although, every passing year of a Biden presidency, it's harder and harder to be patriotic and hang bunting, but I'm going to will myself to do it, right? It's too bad. Because I remember during Trump, I was like excited to do it, and then they I don't know, what did they do? They targeted Trump to make him look really bad, and then they kind of made the world miserable for everybody. And to someone's point, someone, let me see if I can find who that was. In the chat, they're like, this guy is streaming every day. I'm supposed to be studying for my second bar admission, state bar admission. I have a bar admission already. I have several federal admissions, you know, here and there. Even in Puerto Rico, I think I could file. You can go pro hoc vice anywhere, as long as they allow it, right? But in some places, they'll honor your bar license, basically. So say I'm a member of the South Dakota Bar. In 3 to 5 years, other places I can start practicing that, you know, file to do it. And if they approve it, you can practice there. It's called reciprocity. But there are some states that have no reciprocity. At least there's 1 or 2 that have no reciprocity. And Florida is one of them. And there's a reason for that. The reason is, as I've heard this is anecdotally, that everybody retires to Florida, right? But the Florida lawyers who are here, living here, working here, practicing here, day in and day out, don't just want all the all-stars from all around the country retiring to Florida, popping up their shingle or whatever they say, and start practicing, taking their business away from them. It would be a huge, influx of new attorneys constantly coming here. That's one of the reasons that I've heard. So I need to take the Florida bar. Now, I've taken other bar exams, and it's called the multi-state bar exam, and that was good enough. I can transfer that to Florida. That means I only have to take the first day of the Florida bar exam. So it's not as bad. Do I head out of the gutter, Joseph? 90s. I preferred the 80s, 90s. Yeah. I like the 90s. See, this is one of the reasons I really like streaming, and I'm kind of getting addicted to it, is the chat reminds me of 90s AOL chat room. I even made a reference to that in a little video I dropped this morning about the debate. That, you can't find, I don't know, I wouldn't know where to find those chat rooms anymore. But I enjoy this chat. For the most I enjoyed this chat because it just reminds me of that. Yeah. So come here tonight for the debate. I wouldn't say, because there are some times where I'll clip videos, I'll stream for 4 or 5 hours and then clip that up, and then I'll drop all those shorts. Snorted. And I wouldn't say turn your notifications on, because you don't want to get dinged for every single one of those uploads. Like, sometimes it's excessive, right? But I would say that if you want a reminder for the debate tonight, go to the live tab on my page and then just click notify me for the debate. And that could be a good way to, otherwise I wouldn't remember either, to be honest. For the most part, I'm like you, I got my life. But there's a few things that are interesting that happen in politics every once in a while, and Trump and Biden on stage together. After everything's Biden's been through, we've watched him really, I don't know, what's the word? The right word would be to, he degraded? No, something better than that. His health is diminished, his mental capacity is diminished, right in front of our eyes for the past 3 years. It's been really, there's been times where I've pitied him, really. But then I remind myself that he literally made a career on people pitying him. So you can only pity someone so much, I think. Yeah. I will be live for the debate 42. Make sure you check out, decline, exactly, Russian bot. Exactly. But me being able to deteriorate, there's a bunch of words that fit. They're all, they all work. It's just, I don't know, is that ironic that I can't recall the word, because then it signals my own cognitive impairment or decline? No, I don't know. There's just a lot of words you can use. I think they were all trying to get through the door at once, and they all got stuck. Let's say, remember that when SNL was good? They had that Bond sketch. Trump is not well lately, C-Dub. You know, I don't know. I haven't seen anything that comes close to what Biden, you know. I mean, right from almost day one. What was that? Like he fell off the bike. I wasn't day one. How soon into his presidency did that happen? That's one of the first ones that I remember. Because I don't think they would. I hope they wouldn't put him on a bike today. Yeah, words and you don't get along, Stacy. Yeah, in this live chat, what I was going to say, Russian bot, is that this live chat, it's not too bad. You know, I've taken a couple swings at YouTube. You know, it was kind of a decade ago. But there was that, you know, they say, you know, comments are cancer, and I think for the most part, live chat was a lot of spam, but they cleaned it up. I think for the most part, and you can really have a conversation. It seems to be right now. So far, so good. Other channels, not political ones, but I get inspiration from other channels. There's what is that? Pirate Software. You know that guy Thor? He's all over the shorts feed. He's inspirational. His chat's pretty inspirational. Who else? I don't know. There's a few others. Yeah, James. Hey. Was he? Yeah, Thor's the best. I don't know if he would like my channel. You know, he's very he's almost like I'm sure he's a man who's transcended politics. Seems so like centered. You know what I mean? In a good way. Yeah. Actually, he was one of the inspirations. You know? I mean, for sure. Because he's just so dang positive. It's like, come on, take it. Give it a shot. And actually, you know, I wasn't trying to design a video game. I did try to cajole my kids into giving it a shot. And we'll see. That might still be something there. But I think he also was something of the impetus, a little bit, to take a swing at live streaming. Because it doesn't always have to be about something, right? You can make it about whatever you want. What's he do? I love when he takes out the MS Paint. Anybody? Can we spot anybody? I kind of let everybody. I wasn't really looking at the folks in the house trickling in. Are they trickling back into committee? We're still live there too. We live everywhere. I recognize nobody. It's really hard. I see Stubby. But it's hard to, you know, there's like 500 of these guys, 400, I think, something House members and, you know, 100 something senators. And, you know, Dunbar's number is like, what, 125, 150? And that's like a real limit for me. It is a real... I see Vern Buchanan. This is the first time I've seen him in a very long time. He's my congressman where I am currently. How long we've been on break from the judiciary. Let's go back and find out. Kinda. They should be coming back soon, I think. It's been about 15 minutes, 14 minutes. We just need to kill a few more minutes here. The lone survivor from Fallout 4. I love that. I love the games, but I especially love the TV show. If you haven't caught it already on Prime, you know, they ported, let's say, the video game Fallout, which is like a post-apocalyptic choose-your-own-adventure game, to a TV show. And, you know, usually when you get a game to a movie or a game to a TV show, it's not that good. They did a pretty good job. They did pretty good gibber with this. They did a pretty good job with this. I like that one. See, I can't even keep track of all the packs. Goat. Like, I think I know what that pack is about. Yes, Baron, I will be.
All members voted.
Oh, heck yeah. I'm going to be live for the debate. And everybody's welcome. Whether you're voting for Trump, RFK, or Biden. I mean, I can't, like, there's going to be people voting for Biden. It's like crazy to me. Hey, let's go, you too. I like your name. I like the name Let's Go. Of course. Rhinos have to go. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I know that's definitely a thing. They exist. They exist where I live, and in very bad. I'm just south of Luna's district. She's St. Petersburg, I think. I live in a little city south of that. And here, you have folks who run on the Republican ticket, right? And they get a lot of funding from the developers here. You know, the developers have essentially installed a rhino in every single county commission seat. What is happening? We are waiting. What are we waiting? What are we waiting? That's what we're waiting for. There we go. And that should be soon. We were at 14 minutes ago, not too many minutes ago. Yes, yes. Another thing we like to do on this channel, that I like to do, I'm not even wearing a watch right now. I was wearing a watch that doesn't fit the suit. I do like to spot watches, right? I think it tells you a little bit about a person. It could tell you, no, it's mostly a little. I don't think it's much. But you can't really do that on the house floor from this shot. Can't tell. But I'm thinking they're coming back soon from the judiciary. What else is going on, chat? Any victories? Any W's? Yeah, Megkey. Sounds like something's. It's weird streaming. So I think yesterday I had come back after not streaming like for a weekend plus a few days, and it felt a little rusty, a little smoother today. Still getting my legs back, my streaming legs back. Yes, John. And I don't know, you know, what's true, what's not true, but I've been seeing some great things come out of Argentina. Apparently, inflation's been cooling every week since Milei has been in charge, or something like that. This vote that's going on in the House floor, it's I think it's just appropriations for Department of State and other foreign things, you know. Yes. So the debates tonight, what we've been seeing. Let's recap, I guess, what we've been seeing in the committee hearing that we're watching right now. Now, this hearing is about Biden's ghostwriter. He was passed some classified materials. He may even have some audio recordings of Biden. I don't think this isn't about Robert Hur and the Department of Justice's audio recordings. More about classified documents and materials that were deleted once he realized, the ghostwriter realized, that Biden was under investigation, something like that, that Robert Hur was investigating him. I think is something along those lines. So this is the House is marking up the recommendation report. That's what they call this. To hold the ghostwriter Mark Zwanitzer in contempt. Once he's held in contempt, I think that means he's subject to other types of liabilities, criminal and civil. Maybe that might just be true for public service officers and stuff. I have to let's research that together. Now I'm gonna do a. I could probably get the answer from another AI quicker, but I want to get an AI that has its roots based in law. So I use Westlaw AI. It's a little slower. So bear with me. And the question is, what does a private citizen being held in contempt? I wonder if it'll know this. Sometimes it'll be like, I don't have that jurisdiction or something like that. Or is a private citizen being held in contempt of Congress opened up to civil and criminal liability? Because I believe that's the case for, like, Garland, for instance. And let's see. So I think that's going to be the case. U.S. Code, Section 192, 2 U.S. Code, I should say. Okay, where are we, chat? When you guys redact your messages, I really wonder what you say. What did you... Was it a spelling error? Was it a big regret? Shiny watches. Yeah, I know exactly. Straight the narrative up to, right, so it's up to the discretion of the DOJ, and the DOJ has said, like, yeah, we're not going after Garland, right? I don't think that they can go out on a limb like that for a private citizen ghostwriter. I think, if it looks like he destroyed evidence when he learned that the DOJ was investigating this issue, man, I mean, could they look the other way is the question. I don't know. They would probably argue that they are protected somehow by the Constitution, but they're not a constitutionally protected agency, I don't believe. I mean, the judiciary is, the executive is, the legislative is, right? Those things are all established in the Constitution, Articles 1, 2, and 3. Someone's blowing up my phone. I might have to take that. Legislative branch, executive branch, judicial branches, Article 1, 2, and 3. Let me see. Oh, okay. So, yeah. I do have an appointment scheduled for just a few minutes. Let me be right back. So I still have, my practice still exists. I can't, just because I'm studying for the bar, I can't turn it off completely. But it does, when I knew that I was going to take the bar, again, in a second jurisdiction, I slowed down intake, right? And I started studying, and I started YouTubing. Because look, what you want is someone to pay for you to study for the bar, but no one's gonna pay for me to study for the bar. So this is something that I can do that works for everybody, I think. I hope I'm bringing some sort of service. Yeah. Let's see. They're still not back yet, huh? Well, that's... someone's here. No one's here. My dogs are barking at the wind. Okay. So yes, I do enjoy the pacing of being able to stream. I like streaming on YouTube, right? And making my own hours and then being able to practice. I don't know how it's going to work after I finish the bar exam. The second admission, just for new people who are just joining us. I'm studying for my second jurisdiction bar. The state of Florida has no reciprocity, which means you can literally be licensed to practice in 49, in the other 49 states. You can't practice in Florida, in the state of Florida. And I would like to someday. So I'm taking the Florida bar. And it allows me a little bit of time to stream. And, I've scaled down my practice while I'm doing that. It's been good. It's been good. I enjoy it, is what I should say. I enjoy it. I used to enjoy waking up and, practicing law. But I enjoy doing both of these things more. So this is bad. This is good for me. And I really do enjoy your guys' company. Because I don't think I would enjoy it without your company. If I was like here... staring at the void by myself, that doesn't work. Yeah. What do you expect to come out of this Congress? Yes, Congress moves very slow. So, okay, let's see what Westlaw came up with. A private citizen being held in contempt of Congress can be subject to both civil and criminal liability. Private citizens can face criminal charges for contempt of Congress. This was demonstrated in the case of United States versus Navarro, where Pete Navarro, accused of 2 counts of contempt of Congress for failing to comply with a congressional subpoena. Right, I should have known this. The essential element for such a conviction is proving that the failure to comply with the subpoena was deliberate and intentional. Similarly, the case of the U.S. versus McSorley noted that trials on charges of contempt of Congress are criminal proceedings. That's criminal liability. Civil liability, civil contempt, is another potential consequence for failing to obey a congressional subpoena. The Senate must request a court order to compel compliance, and continued disobedience can lead to civil contempt proceedings. And this is supported by the case of James v. Powell, where a defendant was found guilty of civil contempt and faced fines and potential incarceration for willfully failing to obey a subpoena. Both types of liabilities demonstrate that contempt of Congress can bring significant legal consequences for private citizens, encompassing both civil penalties and criminal charges. Right. And we knew this. I needed to read that. No, I don't think so. That's a pretty hard and fast no. Russian bot. Not under, no. Like, maybe in a Trump admin, but even then, I don't know. Seems like these are the agencies, like they need to go away and be reimagined and they can come back, but everybody that's there needs to go. You know, I mean, what's Muhammad Ali's famous quote about the snakes, right? You got 1,000 snakes, you got 100 good ones. And that's like 1,000 snakes. I'm working with 1,000 snakes. It's, I mean, how so many people, the federal government is a huge employer, how so many could remain silent is crazy to me. It's funny, Troy, the CapCut auto caption calls it a Ghost Rider too. And I let it, you know, I don't catch all the things. I'm kind of like keyed to look for spelling errors, not necessarily the right word in the wrong context, or like the correctly spelled word, but it doesn't make 100% sense. Yeah, clean the swamp, exactly. I would want to do, if I could have, would never want to work in the government. Not really, right? Because they don't like private sector talent. They don't like energy. They don't want people who are going to clean things up or rock the boat a little bit. And that's like what we need, and that's what I want to do. It would have to be some position in charge of cleaning up, getting rid of these people. You know, and there should be some sort of position for that. I hope they vet everybody, you know. Imagine they pull off this election again. They somehow steal it. I don't want to be like them. You know, there's gonna be like people. They say they're gonna leave, but man, could you stay? Is the question. Can you stay for another 4 years of whatever you call this? It's not the Biden administration. He's just the figurehead puppet. It's practically like it's like the inmates running the asylum. I feel like it's the interns running the show. I don't know. Yeah, I could see that Russian bot. I can see that. An independent watchdog organization. Something like that. Something like that. I don't know, right? It's not like what they tell you. You're going to grow up to be an independent watchdog. I don't know. It's like uncharted for me. I know that those organizations exist. In matter of fact, I'll know more in August. In August, the Republican National Lawyers Association is holding an election integrity conference I'm going to. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, Mario. Mario says, you're a lawyer and you want a felon for your dear leader. Hey, Keith Jenkins, salute. Thank you. Keith, what's up, my man? So here's the thing. We're the most jailing nation in the world. It's like everybody, like pull a guy off the street and ask if he's been to jail. Chances are yes. There's, I've, as a matter of fact, I'm familiar with the state throwing charges around, trumped up charges nonetheless. I mean, I was also, they tried to, I would be a felon, but for the due process, right? They said, we're smacking you down with these 3 felonies. And, obviously, what their sequence of events and story isn't how things went down. In 2015, this is December 2015, early 2016, I happened upon some security vulnerabilities in the state of Florida's election servers. I was taking a internet, cybersecurity course that they offer veterans, right, through the Department of Defense. And I was applying some of what I knew, just checking out things. Wasn't trying to pry my way into a system, but what I found were a bunch of passwords, usernames, passwords, challenge questions, and the answers to those challenge questions, publicly facing on the open internet at the local level first, and then at the state level. What happened was I called everybody. I called the elections office. I called the news, and I was like, "Hey, you guys are wide open." News comes, and they're like, well, can you show us what you did? And I had recorded it on screen, so I just pulled it up and showed them. They're like, hey, do you think that the state is vulnerable in the same way? Big mistake. I think I've talked about this before. Big regrets. Big regrets. But the point being is, I could be a felon too. If, things went differently, who knows? But I mean, honestly, if the federal government had its way, I feel that we'd all be branded felons. So who's I mean, what, Nancy Pelosi isn't? Because she's never had the SEC or some sort of court investigator bring charges against her, which is wild to think about. She's above the board and she's okay, right? Joe Biden has literally, his family's benefited off of, it seems like tens of millions of foreign dollars, right? Just influence peddling. But he's okay because he's never had a charge brought against him. Hunter Biden has just led a life of, I don't know, crime. It seems like, post like 2017. I don't know how bad it was before then, but yeah. Who is holy enough to be president? My question. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody does commit crimes. That's my thing. I think everybody commits a crime and everybody deserves a robust defense. And not just to mention, by the way, this might be the most important thing, is just because you're found guilty at the trial court level, the trial court doesn't always get it right. It's easy. Oh, we found him guilty at the trial court level. Well, do you know why the appeals process exists? It's funny because even at the trial court level, they recognize, well, police reports don't always get it right. It's like every step above, you're like, yeah, they get it wrong. So, once you get to the trial court, you'd be like, yeah, the police report's incorrect. You poke holes there. And then the trial court, maybe you get found guilty, but then you appeal. And you appeal and you appeal. It's a system and it exists for a reason. Yes, I'm going to be live streaming the debate tonight, David. Yes. 100%. Assuming, who was it? Was it Stacy or was it, who was it? Someone was saying that they might be trying to block folks from live streaming this thing, but I think that might be the case if you're live streaming on the CNN end of the operation, but if you're on the C-SPAN side of things, I think they're not going to be able to do that. But I just don't think they're going to be doing it anyway. I think someone said, was it? Oh, it's going to drive me nuts until I figure out. But word was Tim Pool said something about them trying to get people not to live stream the debate or something like that. I don't know. Should be good. Should be good. And let's try, no ad hominem attacks against each other in the chat for the most part. That's going to happen. I'm not going to moderate it too much. But, we can make fun of the politicians. I mean, I can't help but make fun of Biden a little bit. Come on. I had the Weekend at Bernie's thumbnail going. Longest 20 minutes of my life, Jim Jordan. What is going on? They're just palling around. They're palling around. Okay. They all look like they're sticking around for something. Do you see anybody from the judiciary in there is the question. I might see Biggs. I think I saw Biggs just sitting there. But he's done speaking for now, maybe? I don't know. That's not, Are we live on the floor? Yeah, that's a live broadcast. I don't think they're coming back. Anytime soon. Yes, sorry, debate time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Supposed to be on ABC. So it is a simulcast. So this is the word. I don't know if it's going to be simulcast on all these networks, but it's being reported that they're going to be carrying it. Allegedly. If I can spell correctly. Definitely C-SPAN. I know that much. I don't know about MSNBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, and PBS. But C-SPAN confirmed. The House clerk is reading.
Recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of the request for a recorded vote will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This will be a 2-minute vote.
Mm-hmm. So what am I missing here? In the chat, guys. I like to get involved in the scuffle. We've all been charged with felonies, come on. I'm just kidding. But we're the most jailing country, and I really wish that wasn't true. Right, but it's confirmed. Most jailing country in the world. United States, highest incarceration rate. How did all this happen? And it's not like we have like a humongous population. I mean, it's a big population. It's hundreds of millions of people, but I guess China has the largest number of prisoners in absolute terms. But we're talking about, I guess, rates, statistics. But yeah, around 2 million individuals are incarcerated. That's crazy. I think the federal government needs to sit this one out. You know what I mean? It's not like they actually have a constitutional right to police power. So that was something I wanted to look up before. So the DOJ, like agency like the DOJ, isn't actually like a constitutionally protected agency. I think it's just established or rooted in U.S. code and various acts, other things, executive, whatever. Right. Its functions are explicitly outlined in the sense that its existence and functions are
76, the nays are
Instead, it's
334. The
DOJ,
amendment is not
it's
agreed
federal
to.
executive department established by an act of Congress.
The
Yeah.
unfinished business is a request for a recorded vote on amendment number 16, printed in Part B of House Report number 118-559.
It's not mentioned in the Constitution, but it's gonna tell you.
And on which the ayes prevail.
You know, they would argue Article 2, Section 3 requires the president take care that the laws be faithfully executed. That's going to be their excuse. That's what, yes, we have some protections in the Constitution. No, except no. That's, that's not what that means. Article 2 is the executive. Okay? So what I'm getting at is all these things can go away, I think. All these 3-letter agencies, for the most part. We can have something, but you don't need DOJ, ATF, FBI. It's like redundant, and all they do is make excuses. They operate inside loopholes. They'll raid Americans on sham probable cause in a pre-dawn raid with long guns and ballistic shields and no body cameras because they don't have the budget for body cameras. And then they'll murder somebody. And that's just one example. There are more of examples of that aren't as widely known. But that's just the most recent one. Is it Mark Malinowski in the ATF? So, my take on General Surgeon declaring gun violence as a national health emergency. So that's a joke. That's my take. That's my hot take. Because you take away guns, they're going to use knives. You take away knives, they're going to use rocks, sticks, and stones. There's just is there a violence epidemic? Because if that's happening, I would say we need to bring back asylums. You're letting loose crazy people loose on the streets, walking around in these dense city centers. They're pushing people onto train tracks. They're sucker punching people. And maybe they get their hands on a gun too. What's the most recent one? The rash of what seems to be like pharmaceutically, inspired But you're getting these people who have, so this is weird. This didn't used to happen. This did not used to happen. Women were not mass shooters, right? And just in the past year, I don't know if it's a mass shooting. You had the one in the school, and they took her out. Is there another woman pretending to be a man who took their own parents out? I think that's recently. This is a weird, I guess that's not new. It's a weird thing to see. And it's completely, right? Are we even, is there a debate? Are we talking, no, it's not pharmaceuticals, it's the guns. Or what are we talking about here? It's funny. So let me go back to that again. This is just a stream of consciousness thing. Yes, I think stay focused, health, bless, productivity. Take your vitamin D, B, C, D, zinc, all that stuff I like to say. I'm not leading by example today. I don't think I took mine. I have my C on my desk, so I'll take that. But let me not lose focus here. What we were talking about was my vitamin C deficiency. No, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to find my train of thought here. What's my take on I was developing a thought and then I lost my train of thought. The general surgeon declaring gun violence as a national health emergency. That was the question. And it's crazy because it's pharmaceuticals that I think are driving a lot of this gun violence. So it's like the Surgeon General, the general surgeon should know that, right? This is a health, safety, welfare issue. We're talking about the Surgeon General. We're supposed to be talking about a doctor, right? And it's political. Everything's become political under Biden. Every single appointee, they're all the worst. They're all the worst. Who's that Rachel Levine character? The worst. What are these people? What rocks did they crawl out from under? Yeah. It's crazy. Let me memorialize that thought. If I type it out, I might remember it too. Blaming gun violence. I think it's sad and funny at the same time. It's mostly sad. And it's like these people, they're true believers in their causes, I think. They're brainwashed and they don't know any better. They believe the talking points, is what I think. You know what I mean? They don't know. Do you expect them to know? Who is? This guy, huh? I mean, you know what? You know who I want my Surgeon General to be? Andrew Huberman. He looks like he should be the Surgeon General. He looks like he looks the role. That beard, very distinguished. Who is this guy? Vice Admiral Vivek H. Murthy. At least he's an MD. You know what I mean? Like you feel like some of these people get the position. They're just like at the. I don't even know. Where did they pull out that the guy who was stealing the luggage? Who is staffing these agencies? All my talking points are lies. I'm just, I'm telling you the truth. My talking point being that pharmaceuticals seem to have some role in massive waves of violence, and not just pharmaceuticals. Lack of treatment in mental health facilities. So, you have a bunch of people getting pumped full of let's just say, SSRIs were a big one back in the 90s. I think they're still being prescribed today. I think that it's probably not best practices. Those seem to be those kinds of things that mental, chemistry, those seem to be present in a lot of these events, right? These are crazy people. There seem to be a lot of crazy people. And that's not something, I don't think you can blame. This is like the best thing you can say about Biden is you can't blame him for all the crazy people on the streets. This really started under Reagan. I don't know. Did he sign something into, come on, Mario, tell me I'm wrong here. The crazy people, it's like, remember the Joker? Just like the tensions rising throughout the whole movie. It's like since Reagan signed whatever bill, let's find out together. Bill did Reagan sign that basically abolished mental asylums? It was an Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1981 significantly altered the funding and management of mental health services in the United States. However, it's important to note that the widespread closure of mental asylums or state psychiatric hospitals was a process that began before Reagan's presidency. It was influenced by various factors, including early legislation and changes in public policy. Now, so I'm not surprised the Community Mental Health Act 1963 signed by JFK aimed to deinstitutionalize mental health care by shifting treatment from large state hospitals to community-based facilities, provided federal funding for the construction of community mental health centers. The institutionalization movement throughout the 60s and 70s, there was a push to reduce the population of state mental hospitals and to integrate patients into community settings. This movement was driven by various factors, including advancements in psychiatric medication, civil rights concerns, and the belief that community-based care would be more humane and effective. Then Reagan comes along, and the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1981. Reagan's signing of OBRA in 1981 granted federal funds for mental health services to states, giving them more control over how the funds were used. And the act reduced the amount of federal money available for mental health services and led to further closures of state psychiatric hospitals as states struggled to fund community-based care on their own. And the impact was the reduction in funding and the lack of adequate community-based services led to significant challenges. And then, so that's 81. Flash forward to present, and here we are, That's my take. So, when you look at the, I don't know if you are like me and you follow a few accounts that are kind of tracking homelessness and disarray on the streets of major cities, Democrat-run cities, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. If you've ever seen inside of a mental, what do you call them? Mental health facility. It looks like that. It looks like that. It's worse than that. It's about the same. I enjoy it. I didn't block anybody, by the way, guys. If someone might have just moved along scrolling, but no one's been blocked. I think I take that back. I think I blocked Foot Doc Dana back during the pandemic because she was a foot doctor was doling out vaccine advice, and I was like, all right, enough. Like really guilting, I believe it was one of those. Anybody else? Yeah, okay, Mario. Well, some people do need mental health. There's no shame in that, right? Yeah, I think both sides of the aisle probably could benefit from. And it happens on the extremes, the edges, the fringes of both. Yeah, I can't believe these guys aren't back yet. By the way, I wonder. So yeah, that's my hot take. You know, the Surgeon General's blaming guns. That's funny. I mean, my guns aren't doing it. They're just sitting there. It's not the guns. But then you have a bunch of people, you know, hopped up on stuff, or maybe there's some people that should be in the hospital, to be honest. And what about, I mean, what function does the FBI serve? You hear time and time again, it's like, yes, they were put on notice. They were on notice that these people are out there. They were put on notice that these people had, you know, really bad intentions. They were put on notice that they're, you know, they're intending on buying guns and doing something, and then they just drop the ball completely. What are they doing? What are they doing? Yeah. I don't think that's true, Mario. I think you probably have it just as much on one side as you do on the other, to be honest. I don't even know. I don't know. Depends. I don't know. I think he could just be trolling us, Mario. One side needs it more than the other. I don't know. I don't think so. Honestly, do you think it has more to do with like a population concentrations? Because you get more of it there, or do you think it happens just as much in a small town than it does in a big city? You just see it a lot more in a big city? I don't know. That's one thing I want to know. Because I'll say this. Major city centers tend to trend to the left. And I'm just, you know, I'm not even arguing here. I'm just talking things out. Crazy's on every side of the issue. But they gravitate towards major cities. I mean, that's where services are. Maybe that's where they end up. I don't know. It also could have to do with, you know, support systems in a family unit. So if that's part of it, I'd also say that, I mean, you know where I'm getting at, right? One side tends to value family support structures more, and the other side tends to value drag story hour more. And like, which side do you think needs mental health? You know, one side wants to fight for the right to just abort. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. Like, what's crazy about bringing a baby to term and raising a family? There's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Or defending your family because, let's say you live 30 minutes away from the police and something's going down right now. You need to defend your family. You know, that's what the Second Amendment is partially what it's there for. It's also there in case things get, like, let's say, thick, you know? Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I've dealt. Look, I've known people going through something. Let's say. I don't know. It depends what we're talking about. It depends, Mario. But I enjoy being tested, right? I enjoy my theories being tested here. I don't know the way of the world, but it sure seems like somehow pharma. You think pharma was in like the Teflon industry because nothing sticks. Nothing sticks. You get OxyContin, right? You get the Sacklers, and then it's like a game of whack-a-mole, because then fentanyl pops up, and then everybody in the not mental health, just the health field in general, they're like, yeah, fentanyl's always been around. We've been using fentanyl for years. I've had 3 kids now. The first 2, fentanyl was not in the whatever they stick in your wife's back. What do they call that? Someone's going to remember. Yeah. Yeah, that is good. David, that is good. I mean, I think everybody goes through something at some point in their life, right? Everybody goes through something. But, you know, and when you're going through that thing, I don't know if a city is the best place to be. Epidural, Mike Doyle. Mike Doyle for the win. Yeah. So, I don't know. I used to pay attention, right? Because I wasn't sure. I was, as a younger man, I lobbied for the legalization of medical marijuana. I still think medical marijuana is probably the way to go versus a complete legalization. I think. I don't know. I still want the benefits of taxing it. I don't know the answer there. Let's just put it that way. I don't know the answer there. But I paid it, in paying attention to that, I paid a little bit of attention to, because I was wondering, what could this help with? Because I think it does help alleviate symptoms like stress and anxiety. It helps with other things like wasting related to cancer and AIDS. So it's got its medical. It is a look, everybody who I know who also lobbied for marijuana, at the first stage, they're like, it's an ancient medicinal plant. So to change the narrative now and to say, yeah, it's recreational. It's not an ancient recreational plant. That's what. So that's where that's based on. But now, what you do is, younger man, younger me. I used to think that marijuana was kind of like a silver bullet, that it was like, it would solve so much more than it could, right? So I was paying attention to the kind of things it might treat, and like there might be a place for it in mental health, maybe. I don't know. But you pay attention to other places and what they're doing. And it's a long way to get to this point. You pay attention to other places, what they're doing. What we have is we have a lot of compassion, and we even have some funding for like needles and crazy stuff like that. But we don't have the funding, or we don't pay attention to the follow through. We're like so worried about clean needles that we're not worried about, actually treating the trauma that caused someone to use the drugs. So, and other things, right? So, yeah, guys, it's a serious, mental health is a serious thing. And this is another thing I wanted to say too, because I think it plays a role in a lot of things. And I've said it yesterday, and I'll say it again today, is, vitamins. This channel, I don't know, what's it becoming? I don't have any vitamins. I don't have any powders that I sell here. But I would recommend that if you remember this, you go to the store, get some B, C, D, or zinc, all of them. Even if it's a multivitamin, if that's what it is, that's what it is. I take my individual B, C, D, zinc. That is huge. If you're deficient in just D alone, that can have huge repercussions. I've talked about this before on the channel. I worked at LabCorp over a decade ago. And it was a great gig for me because I got to listen to as many audiobooks as I wanted to every day. I mean, I would crush an audiobook a day. It depends on the audiobook. But in doing that, I was there second shift. And so that's like, I think I started at 3 p.m. and went to midnight about. It was something like that. Maybe I got there 2 or 2:30. But I became vitamin D deficient, and that had reverberations throughout my entire life. And that at that time, right, it affected my mental health. Physically, I felt affected by it. And then supplementing it and getting some sunlight, intentionally getting out there a little earlier and getting some sunlight turned things around for me. And there's been other times in my life too. It's similar. I don't know. For guys, Pizza Duder, what's up, man? For guys, yeah, D3, yeah, K2 and D3. I've noticed they're starting to put those two things together recently. I don't know. I'm not even sure what K2. I think maybe it absorbs. Is that what it is? Is D absorb better with the K? Yeah, I think that might be what it is. Something like that. But totally an important part of mental health that I don't think they're like. Come on, Surgeon General. Mario, if you're still here, I think you might be. Guns, maybe like a small part of the conversation, but the real conversation, I think, is in mental health and stuff like that. Gosh, I don't know. D, I think, is probably the most important. B is pretty popular. You see, vitamin B injection stores at the mall and stuff like that, right? C is important. I've had, anecdotally, I've felt like something coming on, something sore throat, felt like I was going to get sick, and just overloaded on vitamin C, and it just went away. So that's for me. Yeah, K2 helps absorb the D. I think that's what I heard. Yeah. So that's like, these are the kinds of things that I want to do with my channel. You didn't get this. You might get this from Rogan, and you know, I think Derek, More Plates, More Dates, and a few other guys are talking about it. But it's wild. What's wild to me is if you ever watch Dr. Mike shorts, I don't know if you see him or in his long form stuff either. He'll like poo supplements, which is crazy to me. You know, I don't. And yeah, God, did you see Hotez when he went back when he was on Rogan originally? That was hard to watch too. They were talking about, I think, probiotics. Like, yeah, well, you got to take them every day to be effective, or something like that. It's like, yeah, dude, that's the plan. The plan is to try to take it every day until you can't anymore. Another thing that's helped me tremendously, I think, this is for me personally, is the precursors to testosterone. Because when I run out of them, it's like very noticeable, right? So there's the more graphic. You're supposed to wake up feeling good, let's say. But there's other things, other parts of testosterone precursors. So if you're feeling irritable, right? If you wake up grumpy, is what I like to say. If you're waking up grumpy, that might be, for me. Look, wow, I shouldn't be doling out medical advice, and I'm not doling out medical advice. These are just anecdotes that have worked for me. But yeah, I noticed in my late 30s, mid to late 30s, I was starting to wake up a little grumpier. So I started to supplement with ground up roots. I'm not talking about TRT. So we're talking about Fedosia agrestis and Tonkat Ali. And I had some great results with that, and bioavailable terkesterone, which you can order these things on Barlow's. Here, let me drop this for you. Herbal elixirs. That's where I get my basically the precursors for testosterone. And yeah, the terkesterone. They're great. They're great. And the other stuff I pretty much pick up wherever I can. The other thing is methylated vitamins, this is new. I don't know if you saw the Brecka Rogan, Gary Brecka, the guy who treated Dana White. He has a lot of good things to say about methylation, and made sense to me. It's like, I don't know all the science behind what they're saying. I can kind of piece together a little bit. What he's saying is like it's easier for your body to absorb, or more effective, right? Like there's different types of magnesium. I went through this. I still have a problem with night eating, so I try to knock myself out. So I use the Huberman Sleep Stack. I don't know. This is going off the rails here. Magnesium's important for that, right? Wild game meat, yes, Mike Doyle. Yes, I need more wild game meat. Let's put it that way. My freezer broke a couple years back. I have a new one, but I haven't filled it back up. The Huberman Sleep Stack, which I think probably the main staple is the magnesium. This is how deep the rabbit hole goes. I don't know. There's like different types of magnesiums out there, which, did you know that? I didn't know that. There's magnesium glycinate, then there's biglycinate, and then there's threonate, and I guess, I don't know. Yeah, methylated vitamins. Yes, Stacy. Yeah, creatine's great. Creatine's like an all-around, another one of those things. When I'm taking it, I feel great. Yeah, it's like vitamin D. For me, I'm not saying like whatever it does to you is like vitamin D, but it's one of those things where physically and mentally, creatine seems to be a real performance enhancer for me. And I need to probably order some more. Yeah. And that's the other one, right? So speaking of methylation, and so I have to get more fish oils. I went through them, and it's an easy one to like not get again, right? Like, oh, fish oil. Because sometimes you can burp that up, and it's like gross. But methylation. All right, so let's talk about what Brecka was talking about, which was folic acid is basically pharma or like chem industry's version of methylfolate, or correct me if I'm wrong here, but what they do is when they spray crops with folic acid to fortify it with, is that what it is? I don't know. I might be I'm way outside my lane here at this point. But from what I understand is folic acid is something that like a large subset of the population can't even break down, and might be a reason that we see, kids acting out, let's call them ADD, ADHD symptoms. One of the reasons may be the folic acid, right? So, and if you're pregnant, I think what they say is some of the supplements for pregnancy have folic acid in them. Steer clear of those is the anecdotal knowledge, and go for the ones with methylfolate. I think you just want your folate naturally. I don't know. But all of these things that we've mentioned, we've been like talking about for a few minutes now, like they all go into, I think, a healthy mental and physical outlook on life. And you don't need them all the time. Some of them aren't daily, right? Some of them are once a week. But it's a lot. And there's a large population, part of the population is getting none of it. They're just like hurt units, right? I don't know. The only reason I go on this rant is because I don't feel like enough people do. Right? So when we talk about the Surgeon General calling out gun violence, it's like I feel like the Surgeon General should be going on this rant, this tour. Take this rant on the tour. That's my take. Yeah, all these things, kimchi, sauerkraut, the natural stuff, natural enough. Yeah, you know what, SL Reno 0101. I don't know if we can call this a democracy. I tend to think along the same lines as Tucker Carlson. What do you want to call it, a republic or a democracy? I think both of those things went out the window when the CIA murdered John F. Kennedy. It hasn't been the same. It really hasn't been the same around here since. So that's my hot take. So I don't know if these guys are coming back today. I think we're just gonna have to assume that they're gonna be holding old boy Zwanitzer in contempt, marking up the recommendation. I mean, the Republicans have a majority. That committee has a healthy Republican majority, so I have to imagine the markup, the recommendation, the report, whatever you want to call this, is going to make it out of committee. Huh. See, but Mark, this is where I disagree. That's my point. Is it a constitutional republic? It's neither. I don't think it's either. That's my point. What is it called when you have like the Praetorian Guard? Is that like is it authoritarianism? Is there an ism for it? Let's see. Let's see. Is it like the Caesar or whatever? Or the Senate or whatever. I don't know. What Praetorianism? Is that really a thing? Okay, so the role of the Praetorian Guard, originally established as personal bodyguards for Roman generals and later for the emperors, the Praetorian Guard was an elite unit that wielded considerable influence within the empire. Their proximity to the empire and their military power made them a critical force in Roman politics. Praetorianism, the term Praetorianism, describes the scenario where a military or elite guard exerts control over the political leadership, often bypassing or undermining traditional political processes like those involving the Senate or popular vote. In the context of the Roman Empire, it specifically refers to the instances where the Praetorian Guard installed or deposed emperors. Historical examples, notable instances of Praetorianism in Roman history is 41 AD. They assassinated Caligula and installed his uncle Claudius. In 193, they assassinated Paternix. The Praetorian Guard auctioned off the imperial throne to the highest bidder, which resulted in Didius Julianus becoming the emperor. The impact, the influence of the Praetorian Guard in Roman politics often led to instability and corruption, as emperors who relied on their support had to ensure their loyalty through bribes and other means. This undermined the traditional Roman political structures and contributed to the inevitable decline of the empire. Praetorianism. Well, folks, it's been fun. There it is. There it is. I think we stumbled upon it. I haven't heard it too much in other places. I think probably Rogan's where I heard him talking about praetors, the Praetorian Guard. But I had no idea it was an ism. Yeah. What's Russian? Pre-Didius. Yeah. Yeah, a bureaucratic autocracy. Yeah. Yeah. All the things, all the things, but not the thing that it's supposed to be, It's not even the other thing that people think it is. It's like this other thing. Yeah. So let's see. Are we still? Yeah. They're all still. It looks like they're all in the chambers. I was planning on, going hard in the committee today, but guys, I'm gonna have to call it. I do have some other responsibilities, lawyerly things that I got to do before, a certain time, deadline-driven stuff. So I really appreciate you coming with me today on this. What ended up being a complete tangent. But it was a fun tangent stream for, thank you for staying. Tonight is the debate, 9 o'clock tonight. C-SPAN is what we're going to be casting it off of. Other networks are carrying it if you can't make it to my stream. CNN is carrying it, and apparently, allegedly, these other networks are carrying it too. So it's going to be hard to miss. But if you want to be somewhere and chat, I love it. I love the chat. So come on in. And I'll see you next time. Take care. Be well. Knowledge is power. Subscribe for more. I'll see you soon.